Wagwan, are you there? What's good? And you know who this is, baby. The #1 podcast in America, dedicated to all you kings and queens of color, homies and homettes, shotters, woo gals, G-boys, and charges. The one and only Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast.
In order not to give a fuck, you got to give a fuck. Thank you and welcome back to another episode. Today we'll give you some tips, tricks to manage your emotions and put stock in the things you should actually care about. We will get you up to speed on the backwards law, how to fight the feedback loop from hell, and some other valuable tokens of knowledge to get your mental health in better shape. So turn on your waterfall noise, roll out your yoga mat, and crank up your attention. Follow us at Jerk Jollof Collard Pod on Instagram for more podcast-related content, such as our post, podcast discussion questions, rep your businesses shout-outs, or send us your questions, thoughts, or express your interest in joining one of our discussions via DM or email at jjcpod@gmail.com. We greatly appreciate it if you left us a review on your preferred streaming platform of choice. And we're about to roll into this thing, baby. If you're not ready to follow her, or perhaps tuning in for the first time and would like to learn more about the show, definitely check us out. So this episode of Rep Yours is dedicated to Atlanta Cruising Kids. This kids transportation service helps parents by providing transportation in the metro Atlanta area, and you can create or join an existing carpool. They provide transportation for kids ages 5 to 18, Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. You can go to their website at KRUZINKIDZ.com to find out more details. Let's run it. First question. What does not giving a fuck mean to you, Francis?
Oh, sorry, I had to go. I had to unmute myself.
And that's it right there, because he don't give it.
Yeah, I don't give a what you got to say, chunks. No, I mean, I think it means a lot of different things to me. You know, when I hear the word, I don't give a, like, what does that mean to me? It means like I don't care who got the newest car. I don't care about how big your house is. I don't care about your gossip, you know, that you're passing along among your friends. And ultimately, like, really, I just look at like people's opinion doesn't define me. Ultimately, like, really what that means to me is like your opinions doesn't define me. And really it all comes down to, you know, what you do giving more fucks to. Glenn, why you laughing on me? It should unmute yourself, bro. You're a goofy self.
You say like the stuff you don't give a fuck about. I don't give a fuck about it.
I don't care. I don't care, man. I don't care who ad is bigger. I don't care who's
What?
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you drive a 2022.
I don't care what else is bigger. I don't care who makes more money.
I don't care
about
your
I don't care, bro.
I don't care about your jacket.
I don't care about your fitted size.
Harry, I
your fitted size,
bro.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
Earth.
it comes down to what you put value to, bro. So
No, real talk.
I don't have
though.
enough fuck.
Yeah.
No, real talk though. I hear you, cuz though, because it's funny because of the examples, but ultimately, like the examples actually further, you know, exemplify the point. Because when you would like have no concern about how people view you and how people, you know, have inferences about, you know, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, even as Nigerians, like, you know, that one thing me and my cousin have in common is being, you know, yeah, we were born in Nigeria, but ultimately growing up in America. So we also have to be, you know, give F's about what other Nigerians think about us, right? You know, but we don't care because we ultimately decide to still be ourselves. So even though you give some, you know, you don't give a F about pounded yam, and you don't give a pound about dodo.
I do care about
but
that.
you do care. All right, he's like, all right. You care
Hey,
about those
hey,
ones.
yeah,
You care
yeah,
about those ones. You
don't
care
go
about
that
those
far,
ones.
don't go that far.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I pull it back. But even with those analogies you was given, it makes sense because those things don't have an impact on who you are and how you identify yourself. You choose to be you, and you don't really care about other people's inferences, you know? And I mean, I think I think that's one thing I'm going to say, I'm in the exact same boat, because I think I used to care when I was younger, always trying to fit in, but growing up realizing that, you know, I'm different in my own way. So I also, you know, I align myself with the same ideology. It's like, I don't care, you know, think what you want to think about me, and I'm just going to ultimately be the best version of myself. And that's the only thing that matters.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. I would say for me, it's about carrying a level of self-awareness and boundaries to where you can, kind of like what D-Black is also saying, that self-assurance, being aware of who you are, where you fit in, what you contribute, what you provide, basically not allowing yourself to be dominated by your self-perceptions or what other people might perceive of you, is the art of not giving a fuck. So you're able to live on this earth the way that you plan and intend on, responsibly, of course, and hold on to those valuable relationships, and you're able to make meaningful, deep ones, being who you are, and just paying tribute to the people that helped make you who you are today. And that's what not giving a fuck is about. Be able to carry on and do your thing and not be weighed by other people's opinions.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Don't let
No.
people's
No, we got to hear from Mr. I don't give a F.
yeah, don't let people's opinion define you, man. That's really
Bro.
yeah.
We need Mr. I don't know. We need Chunky.
Go ahead.
Mr. No F's are given.
It's been a long time coming. To me, it's just prioritization, right? I prioritize what I really care about and shouldn't really care about. So, you speak about opinions. I prioritize certain opinions for me, right? Certain opinions would be certain family member opinions, spouse opinions, kid opinions. That matters. Out in the world, someone doesn't like me because I got cut off by them, whatever case may be. Doesn't matter. I don't care about that opinion, so I don't give a fuck. But there are other things that you have to mentally balance yourself. So if you always care about what other people are saying, what else is going on, and you prioritize how things should get done, we have no control of it, then, you know, you give way too many fucks. So the healthy way of not giving a fuck are things that aren't really important, that doesn't change the dynamic of your life. So you kind of just let certain things roll off your back. And I can tell you that that's not important to me, but it may be important to you. So rationalizing what fucks you should give if you have a fuckery bank, it depends.
Oh, wait,
how many.
are you saying that there's some to be given?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
There
okay.
has to be, like I said before.
I hope
in order
people
not to
learn a
give
lesson right
fuck,
there.
You have to give a fuck because you prioritize what means the most to you, right? And things
Definitely.
drop down from there.
No,
It's fucking deep. So
Tank is deep.
work-wise, right? We're all professionals here, but the majority of time spent at work. Do you have a professional way of saying I don't give a fuck?
So funny thing is that I feel like you indirectly just exposed something, because you said that there are things you do care about.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because I just when I think of that, you know, statement, I just wear it in a form of, you know, identifying myself. So even like we've talked about, I mean, we had a whole like episode about this where we talked about, you know, being a minority, being an African in a work environment. So I need to make sure I check that out. But I think one thing is like I feel like I always had to turn down who I am. I always had to kind of pull back and not be as myself, because it's either I was acting kind of white and people looked at it in a certain kind of way, or I was doing things that were too black and people still had some kind of negative inference on it. So, I mean, I don't necessarily tell people I don't give a F about what your opinions are, what your thoughts are, but I tend not to like be so like, I don't know. I feel like you can see it in my demeanor. Like if you're talking to me about something or you're asking me about a certain timeline and it has little to no impact, I'm going to say, I don't think that's relevant, or I don't think that's important for the moment. Like I feel I have my own way of, that's how you say it in corporate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what I'm getting is your
you
demeanor and just saying like that's not important right now.
Yeah, so part of my demeanor is like you can tell for the things that aren't relevant.
Give us an example. Like if
I mean, I don't
came
think
to
people
you-
can see his demeanor.
Well, I mean, you can hear
I guess I
right?
can speak to it, but all right,
Yeah.
fine. All right. Gotta get my move. Give me a hypothetical situation.
So Glenn and I walk in. We're like,
Mhm.
hey, we have this idea. I don't know what it is yet. I'm gonna pitch it. And you're gonna listen to it. But do I have your backing? Do we have your backing? Glenn, go ahead.
All right, D. So we got this new plan, for penis enlargement. Your help. We need your chemistry background.
Oh
to
boy.
solidify this. Trying to make
I just went
everybody
left.
Nigerian from the waist
I
down.
decided to go into a meeting with Glenn. This is what I get.
And this is
You should pick me, Chunks.
They're calling it the super eagle pill.
oh
We
gosh.
backing on this. Nigerian
So I
from the
will
waist down.
say-
That's the motto.
Oh boy.
So the way that I would approach that, even though so first of all, I care about your presentation and your ideas, right?
Giving
But
us the
what I
money
would
or not?
ultimately,
You giving us the money or not?
Are you paying us? Glenn, I don't think
Well,
you're paying us. He's
no,
not
I
giving
would
us a
tell you,
straight
I
answer.
don't. Yeah, I don't care about that specific endeavor, as it's not applicable.
Oh, you don't
You
care?
don't give a fuck about the
You don't
dicks
care?
out there? You
Oh,
don't give a fuck
God.
about the undersized
You don't
dicks?
care? That's really professional.
You know what? Everybody
don't
be
care.
Nigerian from the waist down, D Black. You selfish.
I don't care. Horrible.
Yo, this is what happens when our two hosts tag up together.
Deplorable, man. Just deplorable. Francis,
Zero
do you
fucks
have a
about the little
professional way?
dicks.
I'm saying you don't give a fuck. Because apparently D Black doesn't care.
And I mean, for me, I think I have more of a, I live in Minnesota, so we are known for our passive aggressiveness. So I would say if somebody give me a feedback and I don't care for it, I would tell them thanks for the feedback. I will review it and get back to you if I decide to go.
But
that
me and Glenn are
direction.
pitching our idea, right? This
Yeah.
Glenn, tell him again.
Nigerian from the waist down.
I'm like, so and what you guys want? If I want to give you a fund for
Are you
it?
funding
money.
us?
We need your money.
I am not funding you. I'm like, thanks for the pitch. I will review your offer, and if I decide to, I will
I
get
want
back
the
to
answer
you.
now before we.
I
walk
just
out of the door.
did. Thanks
You
for the
just said you don't give
offer.
a fuck
You
about
said
the
you
little
review
dicks.
I said I will review it, and if I decide to do, I'll get back to you. That's me
So
saying.
I'm waiting now. I'm waiting.
I will let you know if I decide to do it. That is a very nice way to say no, bro.
That is a very nice way. You put them on red.
Hell yeah.
Man, my way.
Or I would say thanks
Nah,
for
man.
agree and disagree to it. Like
That's
it.
always a good one. We can
Yeah.
agree or disagree.
Yeah.
About the
whatever.
fuck?
Like what? How does that go? Hey, I have this idea for
Like, you just
being
go-
Nigerian for the waist down. Let's agree to disagree on this.
Yeah, if I told you, I would let you know, and you keep saying, "Oh, I want to know." I was like, "Let me get back to you."
It's not an agreeable thing. Or you
Like, wait,
funding-
what?
I'm agreeing to disagree with you.
Well, I'm just at the end of the day, I'm just giving you a more generic, like statement that you could use.
Yeah,
Now,
in
maybe not
a
repres-
professional
in
setting.
a professional
Mm.
setting. It doesn't have to really
Mm.
tie to your scenario, but yeah.
That's like you saying, the sky is blue, right? Yeah. That's what I think about your idea.
Because it's not necessarily
It's not.
applicable. You're not getting a true response. I get you.
They don't give a
Uh-huh.
fuck, Chunky. They don't give a fuck.
I don't care. I don't care. You know what? Know what I say? Noted.
Ooh, that's actually effective. I like that actually.
I say,
I'm-
can you send me an email about that? Because half the time people don't really want to send you
Yeah.
the email.
Yeah, but you still
But
gonna.
what if I
have to
sent it
respond,
before I
though.
saw you?
Yeah,
Nah, so shoot me an
Oh.
email on that one, a detailed one. please.
Chunky want to answer.
Nah,
I'm actually taking those notes down. That's
I got it
load.
load. I got it
Let me
loaded right
email.
now. I'll send it to you right now while I'm sitting with you.
All right, then I'll get back to you after I finish reading it.
Yeah, never.
It's the same shit I just told you. It's the same shit I just told you.
It must have went in my spam box. Let me check Barracuda.
It went to your designated folder.
He said Barracuda
i.e.
filtered
the
it out.
trash.
It's a spam. Fuck your
Oh
dick
man.
pills.
I mean, like, to be honest, ultimately, all you have to say is, thanks for the offer. This does not align with the direction of the team or like the company right now. So, like,
That's saying
That's-
no. We're saying like,
Exactly.
how do you say I don't give a fuck?
That is like saying,
But
I
that
don't
is
give
the
a fuck
same
about your
thing,
offer. Like,
Yeah.
it depends how you want to.
I don't look at
it's a
no
very
necessarily
nice.
as in I don't give a fuck about what you're saying.
But no is
it
like
means the same thing.
It's the same thing. I think so. But is no supposed to be like a subtle? I don't know. Is I don't give a f about you? Is that supposed to? It's like tying emotions to something that has nothing to do with emotions.
Put this on episode 2. The difference between no and I don't give a fuck.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
All right.
Educate us. Oh, Chunky.
Noted. Next question.
That's what he said.
we'll get our money for our Nigerian for the waist down pills. Somebody.
Super Eagle. Super Eagle.
All right. With the ability to speak to the world at any given moment, do you think social media shifted the balance of our entitlement? I mean, we can tell people the way we want to be treated. We can block them. We can choose the things that we decide to tolerate, and we can tell people how to treat us.
Yes. I want to answer this one.
Good.
The guy who does not have social media wants to answer a question about social media. Well, I do think yes, because social media has basically told everyone that they have a voice and that your voice matters and that people really care about what you have to say.
Noted.
So that's why it's interesting, that everybody's like now, like TikTok stars and all these other stars. I mean, here's the thing. If you're doing it for the purpose of enjoyment, like for instance, we use this podcast for enjoyment to, we talk about the things we want to talk about. We, put out the content that we want to have, put out. And, if other people listen and they, enjoy that and, vibe with us, that's all cool. But we don't do it for the purpose of saying that our voice needs to be heard over anyone else's, or that we put prioritization on us over other people. We do it solely for enjoyment. But social media has definitely made it clear that everybody is important. There's others followers to be had. There's listeners to be had. There's, things to be sold. It's all about the money. I mean, check out, our podcast with Mike, where he was talking about the music and how that's even been influenced. The monetization, the money chase has influenced music. So everybody's voice matters. Everybody's song matters. And the truth of the matter is, you don't. It does not. Your voice doesn't matter. Your song doesn't matter to other people outside of you. So if it matters to you, use that as your, springboard to do what you're going to do. But don't do it because you're thinking that it should matter to someone else.
Yeah, I agree, because I think with that as well, we run into some dangers also, to where people are just conscious for clout. They're only positive for clout, and you're still sending mixed messages one way or another. And honestly, I kind of feel like if you're on a platform, in a way, you're in the business of giving a fuck about what other people have to think, because essentially what we see with influencers today is you're really, I feel like in a way with some of them, that they're bending themselves to fit what people want, or to look the way that they think people want them to look, as opposed to really just being themselves. And which is probably why, as confrontational or controversial it is, people like Kevin Samuels are able to amass these big followings, because they're presenting views that are not really popularized. Like, he's getting a platform for himself where he's able to say what he thinks people want to hear, and that's often things related to the manosphere, how relationships are viewed. So you kind of get into these like push and pulls and this triviality of people bending to what they think people want to hear, which is dangerous. And then you also have people that are just probably just being themselves and who they are, not really given an opportunity, or it could be some of their content is just borderline offensive. And so I really think it's just a fine line in between that. But in the business of having a public platform, you're automatically expected to give a fuck about what people have to say. Otherwise, now what happens? You get canceled. And I feel like you just have to be very conscious of how you say things. Not that you can't express your truth, but you have to be very, very conscious of how you say things and how that's, recycled or regurgitated through the public media.
Yeah, no, I do think, like social media has enhanced our entitlement attitude because just watching like Kanye West documentary, it has this he kind of portrayed this can-do attitude, and I think social media like kind of gives a lot of like our generation that same dosage as well because like we have this question, why not me? We have this sense of I can do anything I put my mind into. I'm not saying that everyone that is in social media has that same attitude, but for those who do, I think it does. There's a good amount of positivity that's tied to that. Obviously, everything has negative as well, but I think it's a good thing because we all kind of get to push ourselves to the limit. Say fuck it to whoever doesn't believe us. Like, and we've kind of talking about giving zero fucks. So if we have a dream and somebody disagree with that vision that we have for ourselves, and like I said, Kanye West kind of portrayed that in his docu-series. It's like giving us that extra energy that we need, that boost to keep moving forward and keep pursuing our dreams.
So do you think that's like a backfiring situation? Because let's say you step up on social media, you start posting all this stuff, and you get zero likes, you get zero love, and people are just trolling you. So to me, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous because we'll get into it in a little bit, but like that validity, right? That validity holds a lot in what you think and what you feel and what you're doing. My thing, I think, yeah, I agree with everyone. That entitlement, I think, is damaging because I like when you go out into the real world and someone tells you they don't like some shit that you're saying, you got to deal with that, right? There is no block button. There is no mute. There is no I don't have to deal with this. You have to deal with that if you did something wrong, or you're doing something someone disagrees with, you can't just walk out of every situation. It's just not feasible. Sometimes you have to sit there and hold that conversation, whether it be professional, whether it be personal, about people like your friends, your family members, all that stuff. You can't turn people off. You can't turn the world off. The world keeps moving. So there that level of entitlement that you should speak to me in a certain way that's not reasonable, like, oh well, you should call me, King Chunky every time you address me. It's not feasible. You tell me something I don't like to hear, I'm going to struggle with it, but I have to work through it, right? I can't mute you while you're talking, like in real time. It's just one of those things where it's very damaging. That being said, this is the most tech savvy generation. Do you think there's any benefit to be able to see any event at any time at our fingertips? This could be war, good or bad trends, and just people just doing things for clout. So like I just saw something today. I don't know if you saw that Tesla that got airborne.
Oh,
Yeah.
What?
GTA
Like,
Online.
Yeah, like
Mm.
in my head, it's just like that's one of the things that like that's stuff at our fingertips. Does that benefit me in any way? No. Like someone's car got messed up, someone probably got hurt, and someone else's car got jacked up. But that's
I mean, there's some benefits to it though. I think there's everything in life has the positive and the negative side of it. I'm sure there's other things that we can watch online that actually motivates us and actually inspire us to do something different. As the same token, there's negative things out there, like you said, and there's this thing, the copycat theory where people say something dumb online and they decide to do it, and that then trigger a trend, right? So
Mhm.
so it's like, so I think it goes both direction, and I think we can't live with one without the other. It's just really how we manage through all of it.
cool.
I think there's advantages to it for sure because you're able to gain exposure. I think this is what put the media in social media is that the fact that at any point anyone can become a journalist or a reporter. And in a way, we see that turning on the camera has been a lot more resourceful or the go-to move as opposed to actually one involving themselves in the situation and trying to impede it. A lot more people are quick to pull out their phones. So I think is a bad thing in a sense as well. We're more so inclined to want to capture something than to actually do something about the situation. And
Mhm.
in my opinion, that's been like the bad side of it. But again, at the good side, we are able to capture things. People are able to do things and capture sides that you don't expect to get from public source media. So in a way, of course, with any endeavor, any advancement, you're going to have your junk and you're going to have your good. and it's going to be up to us to filter it out. But I can see in this sense, if we're able to get really that First Amendment expression, able to cover everything and give our opinions about things, it's really a benefit more than so a con in this sense. But of course, anything you got to filter through.
Bet. I like it.
It's funny, like Chunky, I was just thinking when you say, okay, is that your version of saying fuck you?
No. So like, I would have said noted. So like I have like a true distinction. Like, okay, that's like I have nothing to add to that because it was very well said and very well put, right? So I'm like noted, like I really don't give a fuck what you just had to say at all.
No.
D-Black,
just-
all the fucks.
It's like cool.
Yes, thank you. D-Black?
Right, cuz.
Okay, cool. So
No, yeah. So I was gonna say, I mean, I think I also have very similar kind of ideology as Fran and Selassie kind of laid down here. Again, so similar to with what you put out, I think you have to have a kind of a sense of the content that comes out. That's the first part, and then the content that you receive, it's still coming from another source. Like prime example, what I'm trying to allude to is that it's individual generated. So there's opportunity for there to be fake news, real news. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But I do think that the largest, most beneficial part is that it does make the world smaller and tie us all together. There's a lot of stuff going on other sides of the world, music, even other opportunities, cultures. Like, I mean, my palate has been refined with different cultural foods just from, other things that I've seen on social media and stuff that we've kind of learned to cook in the house. So I'm just saying, like, it has its advantages from the optics that it brings us a little bit closer together. But then, of course, like I said, there is a bad side to it too. So
The term there was global village, the idea that suddenly the entire world is interconnected by media technologies and the propagation of it. The theorist Marshall McLuhan said that, so that's pretty dope to hear that also.
yeah, thanks. My thing is that it's a double-edged sword. Depends on what you decide to look at, what you decide to ignore will get you to where you are and the way you perceive things. Whether it be war, good or bad trends, whether it be what were the trends we were talking about a little bit ago? The silhouette challenge.
Crate challenges, all how many challenges?
So like that's
I don't even know that one. I've
that
never
are
heard no
good.
fire challenge.
Yeah, you light yourself on fire.
Well, okay, that's a lesson learned. Noted.
Who wins? Who wins there?
The people
nail
viewing.
polish remover.
The
Nail polish remover companies, because everyone was buying nail polish remover to set themselves on fire.
Oh my gosh.
People are ridiculous. All right, so we all have different values. What is your metric for what's real and what's fake? Is this based off your upbringing, your circle of friends, or media? D-Black.
So for me, the way I value, well, I guess what I value is my metric, I should say. My metric for determining my value, whether it's phony or real, is solely going to be based on, the impact it has on the community. I'm really big on, kind of giving back and trying to, entrench, positive things into others. Even if it's like, for instance, like social media can teach people to be more inquisitive, to ask more questions, and not just kind of take things at face value. It can also teach people to be more imaginative, because you see, I mean, I've been seeing like my wife, she watches videos of like cakes, like cake videos. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I did not know all this goes into making a freaking cake. This is wild. I mean, I just so used to just being like, oh, it's delicious, not delicious, but there's more that goes into other people's lives and other people's skills and the stuff that is needed to get them there. So again, appreciation, that's another thing. But then if you're doing it where you're lighting yourself on fire, I don't see the social impact in a great way from doing that. I mean, that's why I just see like, okay, this person's just trying to get famous. They just want to get noticed, and they're literally lighting themselves on fire so they can say, look at me, please, everybody, hurry up, look at me, please, look at me, hurry up, please, look at me now. And there's no validity there. There's no value there. There's no impact. So those are the type of things that's
it's an
kind of
impact
how
to
I
them,
gauge
right?
it.
So the impact to them is that they get a whole bunch of likes. They're trending, and then people see more of them. They become somebody in that sense. So do you think that's the way to become someone? So like,
so that's a different question, right? Because to become someone is how you define yourself, like who you ultimately aim to be. If you want to be the good guy, the villain, or etc. But I'm saying when it comes to phony or real, like, even the word real is subjective. Not trying to be all grammatically accurate, whatever.
Is the house you live in real?
Is it? Are we in the Matrix?
Try to walk through it. Let's see what happens. Everyone hold on.
Well, I don't. You have to have enough belief. Oh, we're not going to do Matrix jokes. I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna hold those back. But like no. But seriously, like I think impact for me again, phony versus real, impact the community versus not. And then if you're doing like, I don't know, setting yourself on fire, I don't see the impact. I don't see the positive. I should say positive impact to the community. So it's all about the clout at that point.
Chasing them likes.
I would say, like, for me, real and phony, like when it comes to the digital sense of what's being put out there, like for me, what constitutes as real, I gotta look at it objectively. Like, can I touch this? Can I taste it? Can I hold it? Is there any facts behind this information that I'm getting? And I think that's often a lot of the trouble we go through, especially when it comes to like some of these influencers lately that are like coming to claim. And now with this whole manosphere, I'm gonna speak on that particularly because you see that a lot now. That's probably like the latest wave in media right now, right? Like this idea of redefining what it means to be masculine and, touching on subjects as equality and whatnot. I just feel like it's so easy to kind of fall into these traps of people that are just like these IG preachers, just saying things for clout, but yet because people are gravitating toward these things, they're not really sure of the responsibility behind what they're saying or how it may, perpetuate certain actions or influence people to do certain things. So I feel like if you're going to sit here and say something, I have to see what your life is like on a day-to-day basis before I take that in. You know what I mean? Like there's no evidence or facts to go behind it. And because everyone can pretty much share everything, it's like constantly put in your face. And it's like, to me, it's really a really hard guessing game. It's like the best way to find out what's real to you, to decipher what's the phony, is really looking at what's most important to you. And becoming more aware of yourself and your boundaries and what you're able of doing. Don't chase what someone else has, because you never know how they got it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the times you see a lot of people with all the flash and they don't really have a dollar to their name. So it's really about, don't feel like you should go out there and start scamming and doing credit card fraud or maxing out your credit cards because you want to look or be a certain way because you think that's what everyone likes. Like, nah, understand what you're able to afford and try to put yourself in a better position. And I got to look at it objectively. Like, it's very hard for me to take advice from some of these IG preachers because it's just like, I don't know how you live on the day-to-day. You could be telling me F women, F this, F that, and you're over here doing something on the side. So it's like, my honest opinion, you just really have to decipher it. Do your own digging, do your own trial and error and experiences, and pay attention to that because we're in an era where some people don't really have a lot of influences to look to or a lot of people to look to as guidance or motivation, and it's just very easy to pick one from the many online
because they catch you or something.
That's trendy or phasing for the time. Exactly.
So do you think influencers are like the new age motivational speakers?
Yeah, they are the new age everything. Influencers itself,
that's a good question,
are everything essentially these days. They can be a source of motivation, they could be a source of demotivation. You know what I mean? They can help bring clarity to the issue, they can help confuse the issue. So it's like, as long as we're in this guessing game of who's in it for the clout, who's in it for the real deal. It's like I honestly can only listen to people that I know have gone through things, experienced things, and are willing to talk about it. And had 10 times out of 100, they're not usually those people that are quick to make a platform for it. Like, I'm not saying all of them, because you do have people, like, it's been great to see testimonies from people that are going through issues. Like, one person we follow from the pod, and I'll make this as an example to end it, Dr. Farrow. She had cancer, she had her colon removed, but yet she was able to document her entire journey from dealing with cancer to becoming a fitness influencer. And through that mission, minus her missing a vital organ at that, she's still able to be in the best shape of her life, when all some people have to do is just get off the couch. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's been a great revelation to see people's real stories and them able to show you, as opposed to me just telling you something and you just biting off of it because it's trendy, or I said something incendiary or inflammatory, and now it's like, oh, everybody wants to chime in and say something. Like, nah, look at what's actually out there, what they're actually showing you, or how much they choose to reveal. Because once you decide to go on a public platform, that's it. You already made that decision to reveal everything, in my opinion. So
yeah, no, I really like what you guys both stated. I think our value really is the underlying thing that kind of define how we do things and how we kind of go about getting things done. So, so when we kind of think about, like the way, our friends and in the way we were raised, sometimes our value are extremely superficial. Mark Madsen call it like shitty values. So it's really interesting though. But ultimately, I think we have to really kind of figure out what is important to us. What is really critical to the things that we are trying to accomplish in life. And we have to kind of ask ourselves a lot of questions like, okay, why do I want this thing? What value does it bring? If I don't have it, what am I missing in life? So it's a lot. And sometimes you actually, one thing that I actually heard recently also was, when we asked the question about what are we grateful for, and we kind of routed it, we kind of like, for us to really kind of get deep with that question, we have to think about like, okay, if I'm the things I'm thankful for, what will my life be like if I don't have it? So it was really interesting. So like for me growing up, I think my value were extremely superficial. I would call it like shitty value because it was really more internal. It was more self-gratification, stuff like that. But the older I got and kind of start realizing, because when you obtain some of those goals, and I think we have questions on that later, so I can go into more in depth with that. You realize that it's really empty. There's not a lot of value that it brings. It doesn't give you last longing joy. So, and you always kind of pursuing the next high. So ultimately, we have to really dig deep to like, okay, what is important to me? Why do I think this is important to me? And really kind of go from there and start building what are our key value. And I think something that's also really important is, we have our thinking brain, our feeling brain. We have to find a way to like align them to really match up with, a lot of those things as well, because it's easier said than done.
So speaking on like that's a good point, your feeling brain and your thinking brain. It is a challenge to overlay them, but I think there is a purpose of having them separate, right? There's some things that you can't logically think through, you have to feel through it. And there's some things you have to logically think through that you can't feel for. Right. So I think at a point of having them separate, but I think the most important thing is acknowledging they both exist. Yep. And then if you can acknowledge they both exist, and you're able to manage situations a hell of a lot better, because let's be honest, how many situations have any of us been in and we ended up having more of an emotional than logical response, depending on how much we gave a fuck about it, right? So if you don't give a fuck about something, you logically think through it, or you have a low level of fucks to give. But if you really give a fuck about it, you're going to emotionally respond to it because it means so much to you. My thing for the metrics that I have is based off all three: my upbringing, my circle of friends, and media. My upbringing pretty much instilled certain values in me of the things that I can and cannot do in order to be successful. That successfulness wasn't based off of materialistic things. It was wealth of knowledge, wealth of health, and wealth of family. So those things were super important to me. So having a network of people, understanding who those network of people are, understanding what I need to do, and understanding how I feel about situations made it a little bit easier to navigate life. Not saying life is easy at all, and I gave a lot of fucks about different things. My circle of friends is important too, because they were the ones to tell me my actions were right or wrong. And it really depends on your circle, right? There's some circles of criminals that like, oh, this is okay to do. There's some circles of extreme like Christians, not to knock any religion, like, hey, you know, if you sneeze, you need to say 10 Hail Marys. There's some extremes to it. So that kind of conditions you to act a certain way and respond a certain way. And media tells me what's good and what's bad. Not that I take that, but I can acknowledge it, right? So media is telling me that, hey, being a good person with values can get you fucked over. It's like, wait, hold up, time out. Me being a good person with values make people care about me. It ends up getting a lot more done at the end of the day, instead of doing it the quote unquote American way, stepping on people's backs to level up, right? To get it quick and fast. So it helps me delineate between the two things. On the topic of delineation, do you think the metric that you have gives you the best ability to delineate between entertainment and reality? And honestly, should people give a fuck about your metric or your value?
Well, that's a good question, because I think it's so hard to tell between what's real and fake sometimes, at least for me, because I feel like social media has kind of made everyone kind of like reality stars, where they're kind of creating this false narrative of who they really are, and then you think that that's real. And I mean, I will say it's not easy, but I mean, you don't have to care about my opinions, because that's the whole point. To answer the second part of your question, you know, like, you care about what you care about, you make your own metrics, you know, like, you're gonna have what matters to you. You're gonna have how you determine what matters to you. So my metrics don't matter, you know. But I will, but you know, back to the first part, you know, I will say that the lines are so blurred because people are all caught up on, you know, becoming celebrities and becoming famous, and in the pursuit of, you know, becoming, you know, millionaires or the next Kardashians or whoever, you know, I don't know, it's just very, very blurry on what's real and what's fake.
I would say for me, like, to answer that, as far as metrics and whether or not they matter, or the values that each person has, like, yeah, they do matter. Not saying that all my values are gonna instill with everyone else, but naturally we're social in human beings. Human beings are just social by nature. You know what I mean? A lot of what we didn't come born programmed with ways to think and feel, that was amassed, you know, through time, through our experiences, through our engagements with others, through our engagements with our parents, our other social interactions. So all these things do matter. And you think about it, a lot of the things you probably care about or no longer care about were a result from your upbringing and from your experiences in life. So for as far as I know, all the things that I care about and value are also important to the people that I hang with, because that's how we're able to relate and correspond. Like, once you hit a gap or a bridge to where, hey, our values don't add up, they don't sync, I don't see how you're able to sustain a fruitful relationship that way. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, I can tolerate that you think differently than I do, which is probably the concept of America as well, right? Like, okay, we can coexist with our different opinions and values, but we share the important understanding that we're here to coexist. So I don't have to go to your church. I don't have to go to your mosque. I don't have to go to your temple every Sunday, or I recognize my day of Sabbath is when when I recognize mine, you recognize when you recognize yours. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. And I think, you know, with the Constitution, we're protecting our ability to do so and retain who we are. But yeah, these things do matter in a sense to the people that we're involved with. And you should be around people that hold the same values as you do, honestly, in my opinion. You know, not saying that you can't be friends with someone that doesn't, but more or less, you're going to usually have a connection with people that have the same values as you. You know what I mean? Other than that, you're probably just going to be a passerby. But as far as like social media, it's really just a tool, in my opinion. Like, it's the use, how we use it, that's really the matter. And that's about the human nature. Like, whether it was a Twitter or anything else, it will always be an opportunity for somebody to do something to try to gain clout or gain money. As long as there's a channel for money, people are going to find a way to do it, especially if there's an easy, no-brainer way of doing it with very little to no effort. You're going to have people using it. So it's really up to us, in my opinion. You know, whether the devices are there or not, we're going to find a way to do something.
Yeah, Glenn, I really like what you said about aligning ourselves with people who share the same value. I think that was a really nice point. But I think at the same token, I think, you know, those individuals that we also put ourselves around also have to make a decision what they give a fuck about at the same token. So like, so if they're, but ultimately I think we have the friends we do because there's some overlap there for things that we enjoy and we kind of see things. I think there's overlap there. So, but to kind of talk about, you know, how I think social media shows a lot of fake stuff because, you know, we see Jordan, we see all this highlight, you know, we see Michael Jordan making all this, you know, jump shots and game winners and Kobe doing what he does and LeBron hitting like becoming the second scores most points in the NBA of all time. And a lot of time, you know, people don't think about the amount of work they put in to accomplish those things. So it's really and I think we kind of do that. So we kind of that's where I think the fakeness comes in, because ultimately when we look at other successes, we don't think about like how many times they failed. Because I think the most joy comes from, you know, kind of failing at things multiple times and you finally having a breakthrough. And I think and I could kind of speak from experience from that, like struggling to, you know, early on in my career, then finally getting to a point, to a place where I was grateful for, you know, and one thing I've noticed is, you know, the value and the joy that I got from the early years when I first hit those milestones versus the other goals and value that I placed on myself, they were not the same because I didn't have the same failure along the way, at least after those initial ones. So ultimately, you know, we have to be, I think really just social media doesn't show us the full reality of things. And we just have to kind of make sure we kind of assess how we digest all the information that we kind of come across and stuff that we share.
Cool. Very, very valid points. My thing is, yes, my metric gives me the best ability to delineate entertainment from reality. And no, people shouldn't give a fuck.
Yes, care.
Like, whatever. Like, you have your opinions. It's great to have your opinions. Speaking on the fact of tolerance, as American society, we normally tolerate rather than accept things. It's kind of hard to accept things, right? In order to accept it, you have to not give a fuck about it, right? You are who you are. You do what you do, as long as that doesn't cause me any ill will or harm at the end of the day, whether that be physically or mentally. And we all make the choice whether not to hang around someone or to disassociate from them. The next thing I got for y'all, speaking of values, matrix, and entitlements, do you think more society seeks to be validated? And yes, we're talking about those blue check marks on the social media platforms.
Yeah, I think so, because it's trending. Like, I could speak of an experience. I went to a brunch this past weekend to a place called Moxie's in the city. And the whole premise of the restaurant was like an influencer's heaven. Like, they had all these different set pieces for people to take pictures. The whole thing, and the brilliance for it, for a business idea, but it was built around being the perfect place for taking a picture, as opposed to usually when you go to a restaurant, you think about the food. Exactly. So, and then just to see the wave of teens and young people, like, we've had trends and fads back in the day when sagging our pants, you know, until your underwear show. Now it's like you getting the full thing. You know what I mean? You know, wearing oversized clothing was a trend that we kind of did. You know
It's
what
gotten
I mean?
so low.
Yeah, like
it's
getting
people
lower
still
and
sag
lower.
pants?
It's tight. It's
Do they?
tighter. It's
Do
tighter.
they?
They still sag. They
They
still
Oh,
sag
man,
with
I
them
am-
tight skinny jeans. It's funny.
They sag with skinny jeans. Yeah.
penguin walking. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my god! At least
So-
get some baggy clothes. Come on.
Exactly. Like some of the oversized shirts, stealing your dad's shirt for a day. You know, it was things like that we did back then. Every era generation had its trends, but I feel like more so now it's just, you know, we didn't have the medium or the tools to widespread it and
Mhm.
get all these different reactions. And I feel like today it's like if someone says something enough or something is being said enough at a lot of times, that's what makes it true. Because how often do you hear, like, for instance, the quote, money is the root of all evil? You know what I mean? That's not the actual quote. It's the love for money is the root of all evil.
Mhm.
But because it's been regurgitated and said over and over and over the wrong way, a lot of times people are just saying, hey, money is the root of all evil. Like, no, money is a means. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like fall
Okay.
into that
Okay.
trap,
You can't
know what I
catch them
mean?
today.
Yeah, it's the love for money that's the problem. So it's just like the human nature around it and how people put that over other things. It's just that now truth is what's being said a lot. Whoever says it the most is what makes it true. And that's the problem that we have now. So it's just like, yeah, couple all that together, it's a weird situation.
Man, yeah, sure. I think validation is part of what we do, man. We all grew up looking for validation. Remember when you were a kid, you know, and you get, or you like, daddy, look, mommy, look, and you just looking for them to like appreciate and validate whatever you're doing at the time. Or, you know, when you get that first good grade in school and you run home and can't wait to show your parents, you know, you know, like that, those are fun. I mean, I think, you know, even as adult, like, I think what is really more important nowadays is really not the what, is the who, why, and how. How are we seeking those validation? Who are we seeking those validation from? And why are we seeking the validation? And not really just the validation itself. So for me, I think validation is just part of who we are. Like, for example, as a married couple, you know, if my wife told me like, I would really like you to do the dishes more, and I said, okay, bet. And the first time, or it could be something like, I would like it to improve in some area, and you guys talk about it, and your effort, you know, when you first do that thing, you're gonna look at her, like, give you that kudos, like, you know what, babe, I see
Yeah,
you.
did a good job. Yeah.
I see you. Because
Mhm.
that reinforces the behavior, the positive behavior, and it kind of gives you the, you know, that energy to keep moving forward. You may not be exactly, you know, where she or he wants you to be at, but, you know, but knowing, just getting that validation at that moment really helps though. So for me, I think it's, you know, it's really how we go about the validation piece, and how we secure it is really what matters, not the what itself. So
Great point.
Sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, you know, I think that Selassie and Friends definitely drove that point home very well, because I think, again, it is human nature to kind of want validation. It's so funny because I didn't even think about it, because I was like, oh, Selassie made a very good point, you know, like, we're over here chasing it, and but then Friends, like, you know, it's the core of who we are, but that's the truth of it. Is like, that is who we are. You know, and there's nothing wrong with seeking validation. Again, yeah, it is how you, I guess, where that validation is coming from. You know, the things that you value, does it also value you? You know, like, because that's the bad part of social media. Like, you're chasing after all these things after all these likes and all these thumbs up, but, you know, like, you posting these sexy pictures or doing, like, you know, all these muscle shots, and then but then, do people care, like, that you had a bad day? You know,
You're an empty soul at the end.
Yeah, I know. Do they even care? Do they even know if you have a soul? Do they care if you have a soul? How about that? You know, so nothing wrong with seeking validation, but just know where it's coming from, and, also have some wherewithal on how that validation or lack of validation will impact you. Because if, again, it's human nature to want to be validated, but if you're seeking it on a social media platform where people's opinions change like the wind, it's going to put you in a place of anxiety, and you probably need to, not rely solely on that.
I just want to add one more thing, because I realized I didn't really touch too much on the subject itself, but something that kind of riled up something in me after hearing D-Black speak was just the fact, when you do something, when you actually do an act, especially if it's something good, do it because it's naturally who you are, not because you're seeking the reward or the validation for it. So it's just like, for instance, if you hold the door open for someone and they don't say thank you, don't get offended because they didn't say thank you. Because if in your heart you were only seeking purely the gratification of getting a thank you, then was it really, truly, genuinely in your heart, for you to be chivalrous or for you to be kind, if you're only doing it for, a reward at the end of the day? Like,
let that man get the number, bro. I'm just kidding.
You ain't gonna get it.
Yeah,
Let's be like, yo, you did say thank you. You did say thank you. Like, you definitely not getting the number after
valid point, right? So there's times where
validation within self.
you can open the door for someone to say good morning to someone, and someone expects that you want something in return. Right?
That's true.
There's been plenty of times where, like, I've opened the door for someone, they look at me like, what do you want? It's like, I just opened the fucking door for you. That's all I wanted to do. Just make your fucking day better.
You're like, you know what? Get out. And you close the door.
It's like, that's how I feel. It's just like, I don't like, let's try that again. Not always someone wants something from you. Some people are genuinely nice. Like, I say hi to almost everyone that looks at me in the face. It's just like, all right, cool. Hello. How is your day? And they're just like, well, I don't want to talk to you. You don't have to. I don't want nothing from you. But if you're going to fucking stare at me, I'm going to say something to you. And it's going to be polite and pleasant. So that's just, validity comes with a good and bad, right? And Glenn said it, Fran said it, D-Black said it. It's the validity that you're looking for. Are you looking to validate yourself from people you don't know? Or are you looking for validation from people that you do know and that you do care about? Those are two different things. Someone may care about you on social media that you don't know, that's halfway across the world. You do something they don't like, they immediately start bashing you. So it's understanding that self-value, right? That self-validity. Hey, I did this. I became a better person today. Hey, today sucks. Not every day is a great day, but it doesn't take away from the validity you have and the things that you give to the people closest to you and the people furthest from you. So don't get caught up in that blue check mark. There's some people out there that are great individuals that don't have a blue check mark by their name, that people do not know much about them, but yet they're able to walk into a situation, into a room, and be the light of the situation, or to inspire others to bring the most out of themselves. So that's validity in and of itself when you inspire other people. And sometimes you don't know who you inspired. The shit just happens. But don't change who you are because you don't see that immediate return in what you're doing. Life is an investment, right? Just like actual stocks, shit's going to go up and down. You got to take that with a grain of salt.
My brothers are preaching today. I hope y'all listening out there. So, better yourself. I need to better yourselves.
Noted.
Noted.
Sometimes things aren't your fault, but does that mean that you shouldn't take responsibility for them? Shit happens to you, right? And we can do a simple example. You're driving down the street and someone cuts you off. You get mad, you flip on the bird, and you curse them out. It wasn't your fault that you got cut off, but you're not taking responsibility for the action, saying that, hey, people are just assholes, whatever. You control your emotions and your response to things. So that responsibility is how you react. So once again, being that something's not your fault, should that mean that you shouldn't take responsibility for it?
I plead a fifth.
Go ahead. It's interesting, yeah.
Well, I think, it's so funny, right? Because I think it's because we're taught to always be honest and be, and be genuine and all this stuff. And it feels like always say, always, like, I don't want to sit here and tell people that they should be telling lies, but it's funny because there was this on this other entertainer, I forgot who said it. But they were saying like, if it's to save a life, you better lie. You absolutely need to. You please lie. Like, oh man, I'm trying to kill this person. Did they go into your basement? Maybe. Like, no, you lie. You tell that lie. You just save somebody's life. So there are situations that, to be dishonest, I don't know if those count, but I think, but in a general sense, yes, for your own stuff, you should be accountable. I think it goes all the way back to validity. It ties to, value. It ties to entitlement. It even ties to, the very first question of like, what does giving an F even mean? If you don't give a F about yourself, and then the integrity and the way that you carry yourself, and then the things that come out of your mouth, and hold true to those and tie yourselves to those, then, nobody can, don't expect anybody to really give a F about you. If you can't think that way about yourself, and the things that you say. So to kind of wrap it all up, yeah, hold true to the things you say, and if you say them, really, really hold yourself to it, because you shouldn't be saying something that you don't feel like you mean, or because you were drunk, or whatever excuse you want to use.
Whoa. So I can't get drunk and say whatever I want. I thought a drunk man's words was sober man's thoughts, right? So that gives me the reasoning to say whatever I want.
No, just remember when when you're drunk, you have your inhibitions are low. That doesn't mean that your words are no longer your own. You still said
They belong to the tequila.
Jack said it.
Oh, not me.
Oh, Jack.
Taylor Jerry.
All right. That's abuse. I would say, I think it's very difficult to take onus for something that you didn't do. Like, I'm personally not in the business of that. I feel like accountability is a lesson that needs to be taught early and reinforced every day. But I don't see why I would take the responsibility for something that I'm not responsible for. I think we have enough generational and historical evidence of that. So I'm not going to continue that trend anymore. But I would say, in a way, we're all responsible for how things are the way they are today, if that adds any clarity to the matter. But no, I don't believe in taking onus for something that I'm not responsible for. But as far as the conditions of the world and how they are today, everyone is responsible for that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think I completely agree with that, Glenn. When I think about that question, though, I was thinking about it like it depends on what role you are playing in that situation. If we're talking about work and you are the lead, of a project, and something goes wrong, but you was not the one that actually did something wrong on it, ultimately you delete on it. So it is your fault. So you have to take responsibility of that problem. But if we're kind of looking at it from a societal standpoint, like, it was not my fault I was born Black. I wasn't, if I wasn't born with height, so I can't talk to girls because girls like tall guys, or I'm Black, so I have to deal with racism and all this stuff. And ultimately, I think, those are all valid reasons to why, we have maybe some of the issues we have. But ultimately, I think it comes down to how we move forward with those challenges in life, so let's put value on the things that is critical to us, and not get too caught up on things that we cannot control. So the things that we can control is what matters the most, and we have to be able to and have control your outcome, man, because everybody is dealing with shit, right? Everybody got their own issues. Even the white man who's leading the organization, or our counterparts, men, women, yellow, brown, everybody get their issue they're dealing with. So ultimately, we just gotta really focus on what we can manage and not let, some of those challenges define who we are. Because at the end of the day, like, nobody give a fuck. So
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, everyone had very valid points from their perspective. Like, Fran, what you're saying is what I'm thinking, in a sense that, hey, if my dog takes a shit on the carpet, that's not my fault. But I have to clean it up. I can't be like, oh well, the dog did it. It's going to stay there because it's not my fault. It's one of those things where it's just like, now this shit becomes my responsibility, whether I want it to or not. Goes back to giving zero fucks, right? Let me just pick this up, literally pick up someone else's shit and throw it out.
But it's your dog. You're responsible.
It's like the way you said it though. Someone
It's not.
else's.
It is your dog, bro. It is your dog.
It's not
Like
my
a
fault.
wild
It's not my
dog
fault.
came up and
Well,
took a
actually,
shit.
technically, dogs are a reflection of their owners. So,
yeah.
so it is your fault, bro.
That I will really contest.
Yo,
because-
when you go to a trainer, they don't train the dog; they train the owners.
No, they train the dog, not the owner, because they train the
Well-
dog, and the owner takes on what they teach the dog and then reinforces that. So it's just like, oh, okay, this is the behavior the dog needs to exhibit. They teach the dog the behavior they need to exhibit, and they teach you how to reinforce that exhibit behavior. I know what I want my dog to do.
Noted.
Sit.
I'm
let's agree to
Nice.
disagree.
Yes, cuz. Yes.
Anyway, I have to move on. All right. So to end it, do you have a saying that when it comes down to getting caught up in a moment or people's opinions that you say to yourself to get through it? One of my sayings is that don't let someone live in your head rent free. It makes me like at ease with like, okay, that shit really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And if I let that thought keep going through my head, it's going to cause more damage than good.
Yeah, I can go
For
now.
me, it's always I always use be the best version of yourself that you can be. Because I feel like that's my ultimate goal. That's what I apply to every aspect of everything I do. And that allows me to kind of reassure myself that, every decision I take is for that aspiration. So that way I can kind of disregard any noise, haters, etc. that, that surrounds it.
Yeah. For me, actually, I wanted to say something from earlier when we were talking about like if we should care what people think about us. I think it does. There's a place and time for it. I had this note in my note, but I didn't state it. But it's in corporate, I think it matters what people think about you. I've talked about this before. If you really like career focus and your personal brand matters, there's 3 components to it. The way you see yourself, the way people want to see you, and the way people actually see you. There has to be an overlap there. So you do have to care about some level of careness on the way people view you, and kind of and you can influence that. You have a lot of control on that most of the time. And if they don't, then that's when that fucks comes into play, and you don't give a fuck what they have to say. But ultimately, to answer your question, my thing is be your biggest cheerleader and your biggest critic. Because if you, and it kind of ties to what I just stated, if you already are self-aware of your shortcomings, and so once people after whatever negative people have to say about you, if it aligns, it doesn't even impact you anymore, because you already know, like, okay, I'm already working on that anyway, so whatever. And you say, that's where Chunky comes into play.
Nice try.
Noted.
Nice try.
Let
Try
me
to hurt my
know
feelings.
about your feelings.
Yeah, at the same time, because nobody's gonna cheer for you, you have to also be the one to kind of like really keep pushing yourself and keep failing. The more you fail, the bigger your success is. So yeah, so that's mine. Be your biggest cheerleader and your biggest critic.
I would say for me, it would be, especially because you hear this a lot, and I think it's particularly in our community, you hear this shit a lot. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what anybody got to say about me. Even when someone's in the wrong, it's like the automatic defense is, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what anybody say about me. And it's like, no, it's okay to give a fuck what people are saying about you. But my only thing is like, with that, the only time it really becomes a problem is when you're more concerned with people's reactions to you than you are with your own self-assessment. Because I feel like as we go through life, we make these new relationships, we meet new people, especially when you travel. It's just like it really impacts your point of view on things. It really kind of changes and can alter or maybe even improve what you value, what you hold important, or just give you a new perspective on things, on cultures, on views. So it's like realistically, we didn't become who we are from out of nowhere. Like all the experiences we went through in life play a part, and there's always an opportunity to get better. And a part of that is becoming more self-aware of who you are and holding your boundaries. Like if you know me, like we talk about the work sense, because I know it's very hard to say you don't give a fuck about anything when you have a job, when you have relationships. It's like you're expected to meet certain roles and expectations, and that involves you actually caring about what people think or feel about you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have these relationships. You wouldn't have a job. It's like all these things that you're expected to do. There's a sense of care involved in it, and it's very important to use that for your own self-awareness. But what I was gonna say is, dang, and I just lost the thought just like that. But other than that, if you lost it, just go back to what I just said. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with actually caring. Like legit, there's a reason why we're built that way to care. But it's just there's levels to it, as they would say, and don't let other people's opinions dominate your own self-value, your impression of value, and your own self-worth.
Cool. Two things I didn't get to that I wanted to get to that I stated earlier, which is the feedback loop from hell and the backwards law. By all means, go ahead and Google that. Shout out to Mark Manson. I know Francis read the book because there's some things that he like mentioned in there that was kind of correlating. But for more content or to learn more about the podcast, feel free to check us out at Jerk Your Love Collar Pod on Instagram. Podcast episodes drop every Wednesday. Stay tuned for the outro coming up right after this to learn additional ways to reach us and send us your feedback. Be sure to like, share, follow, or subscribe. Like what you're hearing? Feel free to leave us a review on your preferred streaming platform of choice. See you all again next week.
Peace.
Yo, Glenn, do you have a word for the
What's your
people?
curse?
What's your curse word?
Oh shit! You know what? I forgot the last episode to do.
Yeah,
that.
somebody did drop one in the message though, not in the comment.
Word. Are you
Yeah.
gonna drop them in the comments, man? Drop it like top share.
She was like, "What does it mean?" I was like,
But I think I already said Ross Clot. I said Bumba Ross Clot. I didn't do one the
Bumba
last
Ross
episode.
Clot, yeah.
What's the
Bum-
clock?
Oh yeah.
Well,
We'll have one called Fossy Wool. Okay, that's one curse. I'll leave it for one. I'll double up on the next episode. So if you listen to the full nitty gritty of discussion, drop a Fossy Wool in the comments. I want to see how y'all want to spell it first before I correct it. So that's why I'm not gonna drop the spelling for you. But yeah, definitely do that. Thanks for the reminder, friend.
does it go F-U-C?
No.
And that concludes today's episode, but that doesn't mean the conversation has to end. As a matter of fact, feel free to check us out at JJC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for our post-discussion question following the release of this episode. If you are a Black or minority business owner or professional that would like to be featured on the Rep Yours segment of our show, or a listener with some general feedback for the podcast panel, feel free to shoot us an email at jjcpod@gmail.com. As always, likes and comments are always appreciated. Be sure to subscribe or follow to be notified when the next episode releases. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.